Okay, what I thought I would do is give a quick introduction to project financing, because I find the EDP case a bit complicated. And so what I like to do is step through a tax equity deal and also asset rotation. So why don't we look at that and give this an introduction to you before you really even start the case. All right, so we're going to talk about project finance, and we're going to talk about tax equity and asset rotation within that context. All right, so let's sort of look at what we've done so far about cash flows. And so here we have the normal cash flows, free cash flows here. And let's just assume all equity firm, because we'll just sort of talk about project valuing something in terms of this. Now, the one thing we did do was APV. And in APV, what we did is we took unlevered cash flows, which are actually free cash flows by our definition. And we said, okay, and we separated out another cash flow, which was the tax shield, okay, associated with debt. And we valued these two things to get the value of the levered firm. Tax shield. So that's what we did. So we separated it out. Now, the key point we made when we did that is really you don't value those two things separately. You don't have a situation when the tax shield is sold off and when you have the unlevered firm cash flows separate from the whole thing. However, in project financing, actually the cash flows can get separated out. And let's look at that. Now, here we start with the same point. We have free cash flows. And basically, if you think about free cash flows in the case of this, there's also the production tax credits, which are added back. So we go back over here and we look at this. We take EBIT minus taxes plus depreciation and assume that these two things at least are zero. Then we would add back the production tax credit. Well, another way of reformulating this would be just to take EBIT plus depreciation and get EBITDA minus taxes, and now we have the production tax credit. So in one sense, in this particular case, what we're doing as opposed to unlevered flows plus the tax shield. Here what we have is this is another way of thinking about it, free cash flows are also equal to, okay, EBITDA minus taxes plus the production tax credit. So that's another way of, so what we have is we have three streams of cash flows here that all are equal to free cash flows, but we've divided them up into three different buckets. Now, it turns out with project financing, okay, when we talk about project finance and projects, it turns out what we can do, unlike adjusted present value, unlike that situation, we actually can turn around and sell each one of these streams separately and value each one of them separately. So that's in a sense what we do in the EDP case. And so let's sort of look at that.